Welcome to Revelation 8. Before I begin today, I want to go over to section 77 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Section 77 has all kinds of answers to questions. Q is a question, A is an answer. And so you're welcome to go there and to see if Joseph Smith lines up with what I'm telling you. But the Spirit hasn't drawn me here. And I encourage you to go there prayerfully and realize that scriptures many times have more than one meaning. And so remember it from the introduction. There's the surface meaning, and then there's the midrash, or the deeper meaning. And many times Joseph Smith, I believe that he had these quick answers because the Gentiles are kind of an impatient people, and they wanted to get quick answers, and so Joseph Smith gave it to them. But you're welcome to go there and read, and I encourage you to do so and see if they line up with what I'm telling you. So the whole Doctrine and Covenants, really, it's a book for the Gentiles. And we've already talked about how in 133 it talks about Ephraim, and that has came and gone, and now that will not be fulfilled. And the entire DNC 84 and various scriptures, this is a book for the Gentiles. And it's by the way full of condemnation too, because the Gentiles did not fulfill what the Lord wanted them to fulfill. They did not recover the remnant. And so I want to make you aware of that. I know it's here, you know it's here, and feel free to go to it. But we're going to go back to Revelation chapter 8. And when he had opened the seventh seal, now this is the final seal, this is the seal that brings on the millennium. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half hour. Okay, where have we seen one half before? Let's just assume, though, that we're talking about time as it exists on earth. We know from facsimile 2 in the Pearl of Great Price, 1 day in Kolob is equal to 1,000 years according to the measurements of this earth, which is called by the Egyptians Jeoheh. This 1,000 equal to 1,000 years equal to 1 day on earth is also in 2 Peter 3:8. 1 day in Kolob is equal to 1,000 years on earth. Is also verified in 2 Peter 3 and Abraham 3:4. If you do the math, a half hour in heaven is 20.83 years on earth. And so you could look at that like Cleon Skousen erroneously did, and you could say, okay, well, there's going to be silence in heaven for what appears on earth, 20.83 years. However, none of this applies here. From the Book of the Remnant, the 1/2 number, and we've read this before earlier, the 1/2 number represents the stoppage or arrest of their ministry, arresting or stopping the work of Satan. And in this chapter, God is about to stop the workings of Satan. Now, Satan comes back because that's what a war is. Satan comes back in later chapters, but for this chapter, it's all about the judgment of God. Previously, we've applied the 3.5 years as half of 7, remember? But the principle applies to the 1/2, not the 3. The 3.5 is half of 7. 1/2 an hour means that Satan's hour of victory is stopped or arrested. The prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar come into focus here, from the incense and from the golden censer. Remember that James 5:16, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much? Well, how about the effectual fervent prayer of innumerable righteous men praying since Adam, because that's what's about to be unleashed. The silence is happening in heaven where there really is no time. But as we're told, where time stands still. But let's go back and read that again. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of a half hour. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God. To them were given 7 trumpets, and we've talked about trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar. Now, nowhere in here so far is Satan introduced, or his image, or his minions. Verse 3, and another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense. Incense is associated with prayer, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Now remember, I'm going to go back here very quickly to chapter 5, because the same thing happens in chapter 5. And verse 8, and when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. And so you may think that your prayers go unfulfilled, but sometimes they're just saved. They're just saved. And at this point, verse 3, they're about ready to be unleashed. The power of those prayers are about ready to be unleashed on the face of the earth. Verse 4, and the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire. Okay, here's the judgment. Here's the result of all these prayers. Here's the result of all of the prayers since Adam to pray for the saints and to pray for the seed, for the children of the prophets, for the house of Israel. This is what this earth life experience is for. No salvation exists outside of the house of Israel. Verse 5, and the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. All as the result of these prayers. God does not ignore prayer. At this time, all the prayers that have went forth previously on behalf of rectifying the injustices experienced by the righteous from the unrighteous are now on their way to being resolved. Verse 6, and the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So there's 7 angels, and when I say angels, remember these are beings that throughout scriptural history that have probably been translated. But they are the servants of the Lord that have existed. The elders have died, and they exist beyond the veil. But the servants or the angels, remember Joseph Smith changes angels to servants many times. But they're the same thing. These are people that have existed. We've read the scripture where Joseph Smith says that there's no angel that comes to this earth but which has been a part of this earth and have lived on this earth. And so all of these angels were once mortal. And here they come, 7 angels. And they come and they're about ready to blow the trumpets one at a time. Verse 7, the first angel sounded his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. Remember, there is going to be massive cosmic interaction during the end times, and it's coming. It's very, very soon. It's very close. NASA might be able to think they can predict it, but I highly doubt it. I know they're not going to be able to stop it. Fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, And the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. So remember the third part, right? Fire mingled with blood describes a cosmic event. Remember that 1/3 represented as third part shows that the bounds have been set, or that this power is limiting, pertaining to an undetermined segment of the population. But it is significant or sufficient. See note on Revelations 5:11. Okay, so verse 7 again. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth. So here it comes. And this is by design, because of the prayers of the saints. This is the doings of God, not of Satan. An undetermined part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. Okay, I like that, as it were. And as it were, it's not a mountain. It's probably a great big asteroid or something like that. Burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part, or an undetermined amount, of the sea became blood, 9. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded his trumpet, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So these describe the results of a continuation of cosmic events. Cosmic events happened previously in Scripture. For example, the 10 plagues of Egypt, which came at the voice of Moses. That was a series of cosmic events. But now let's go to the word wormwood. Strong's uses lifeless as a synonym to this word. As well, from the Dictionary of Bible Imagery, as an image of decay, worms are linked with putrid materials. When some of the Israelites disobeyed the command not to leave any manna overnight, the manna thus stored bred worms and became foul. There is no more repulsive death recorded in the Bible than that of the arrogant Herod, struck by an angel of the Lord and eaten by worms. To render the decay of corpses in the earth vivid, several passages include the detail of worms feeding on the flesh. And there's the references. In another form of destruction, worms destroy trees or vines. As an image of minimal life, the worm sometimes represents people reduced to something less than human. Wormwood is also synonymous in the Bible, not only with decay, but also with bitterness. Finally, the worm that never dies is an image for the torment of hell. Isaiah and Mark. Now, I would also say, though, that because every animal in the scriptures can be depicted as good or evil, and worms in your soil help your plants grow. And worms are very, very healthy for gardening. And so, but here, wormwood, this was the name of the star that was falling down. And it took out a lot. The waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So it's bitter. The waters became bitter. Verse 12. And the fourth angel sounded his trumpet, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so that the third part of them was darkened. And the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Remember, third part, undetermined. And this describes, again, a volcano erupting, or a series of supervolcanoes erupting, which would cloud the sky, and you wouldn't see the stars, or a significant amount of the stars. You wouldn't see the sun as it usually is in the sky. It's darkened. And the moon likewise. Verse 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. So how many trumpets sounded at this point? We know the fourth angel sounded. All of this chapter is the judgment of God. Now the recourse, Satan is very quickly in the next chapter going to come into focus. But we're about to hear the fifth trumpet sound. The voices of the trumpets of the three angels are about to give the world three woes. The first is straight ahead. So 4 trumpets sounding leaves 3 more trumpets yet to sound, and they're coming up. We'll catch you for Revelation 9.